Hi, this is Jennifer Mulholland and Jeff Shuck. We are the authors of Leading with Light, Choosing Conscious Leadership When You're Ready for More.
Recently on our podcast, Plenty for Everyone, we shared conscious leadership lessons that we've learned in our 10 years of working together. Each of these 10 lessons highlights one of the concepts that we share in the book.
We hope you enjoy this glimpse into Leading with Light, and we hope you buy the book itself, available in March 2024.
So let's go to the second. The second thing that we've learned in 10 years is to follow flow. And we've talked about this a lot on the podcast when we share the metaphor of the river and being aware of where the current is going and aligning yourself with the current instead of pushing against it. And holy smokes, has this been graduate school for me the last 10 years, because I, like so many people, like so many business owners and executives and people who are wired to try to achieve, man, that word try, right? Try, push. And I really used to live by the old adage of when the going gets tough, the tough get going, that when you hit resistance or when things start to feel like a slog, you just need to work harder. And that was really successful for me until it wasn't, right? It was really successful until it became too hard to keep pushing and too hard to keep striving and too hard to push against the flow of life. And the idea of actually slowing down, being aware, and seeing where there's momentum. And, if that group that you're selling doesn't call you back for 3 weeks, stop reaching out to them. If you're struggling to write a blog post, it's not coming to you, put it down instead of pushing through. If you're wondering about the best input or perspective to give a client and it's not coming to you, go take a walk. That whole idea of being attuned to resistance, seeing resistance as a tool and a helpful guidepost instead of an obstacle to overcome. And then being more aware of where the universal energy is, where the divine spark is guiding you, and stepping into that. I think of many things I think I've learned from our partnership, I would put this at the top of, and you have constantly been a coach to me, Jen, about not pushing, not striving, lifting our feet up in the river and letting the current take us. And I'm always surprised at how much further I go when I do that.
Hmm. Thank you. Yeah, it's certainly been a practice. And I feel like over the last decade, there have been moments of awakenings and ahas and sparks of like how to practice this in a different way. I love that as one of our core company values that we align on,
Yeah.
that really has become a teacher to notice where the flow is and where it's not. We've all heard the idea of what you resist persists. Um, and being an athlete my whole life, like you train hard, there is resistance. Muscles need resistance to grow. And I too prided myself on being creative of how to overcome and go underneath and around and strategize how to solve things and how to overcome those blocks and challenges, until I started to see that that actually was exhausting me
Mm-hmm.
and draining my own resources and frustrating me and taking a ton of effort, of drive to overcome.
Mm.
And I don't know when I had this visual, but it was like one day I kind of could see the Staples easy button as a choice point. And it was like, well, why don't I get to choose? Can't I just hit the easy button? What would my life be like if I actually hit the easy button instead of trying to have things be hard or work around? And I come from some lineage in my family that I won't get into, but this ethos of like, if it's not, if you haven't put hard work in it, it doesn't count. This idea,
Right.
like hard work is actually the highest value. And I've really unplugged from that and seeing like, oh, that's not a choice I want to make anymore. That doesn't work for me. And that is a family pass down that is stopping with my generation. I have
Mm.
no interest in plugging into that anymore. I I want to choose that I can press the easy button at any time. Why does it have to be difficult? Can I notice where the flow is? And to your beautiful examples, can I leave things alone if they are not working or they have too much resistance? Where is the shift in my attention? Because whatever I'm focusing on, I'm feeding, and whatever I'm feeding, I'm forming. And so the more I focus on the resistance, the more that resistance grows. And it just has been a really helpful tool. Can I
Mm.
just leave it alone? Can I trust that the universe, what the field of well-being, divine intelligence, whatever you name that to be, is going to shift something where I will see something different, where it will be less sticky. And over here, can I lean more into, well, where are things flowing? Where do I feel like I'm leaning in? Where is there momentum, to use the word that you just shared? And there's feels like there's always a choice, right? There
Yeah.
feels like there's
Yeah.
always a subject where the current is flowing. It may not be the same subject or it may not be the same content,
Yeah.
but there's always like energy flowing. The current is flowing, the synchronicity is there in some way. And if I can learn to move in that direction, things feel more aligned. And that I feel like is the core of our work is, being aware, being aligned, and being intentional. I get to choose where I'm placing my attention. Um, in martial arts, you're taught in many forms that you actually don't push against the energy and the resistance. You move with it and you channel it and you redirect it. And that's, I think, what we're pointing to. It's like the river flows. Well, where's that current? And how can you be in right relationship with it, or relationship with it, the redirection of it?
Yeah, it's like move the cart in the direction of the horse, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you're getting a lot of momentum doing engagements on strategy, stop selling the engagements on analytics, just to pull an example from our own history. The
Right.
other thing I want to introduce as a corollary before we move on to the third one is I've been heavily influenced by a writer named Stephen Pressfield, who wrote a book called The War of Art. And he talks about the idea of resistance and that the artist's way is to overcome resistance. And I still buy that a bit. What I think I've learned through following flow is how often I invent resistance, how the resistance isn't really there. And the joke I always use internal to plenty is that it takes 4 hours to write a blog post, 3 hours to complain about writing it, and then 10 minutes to outline it, and half an hour to write it, and then 20 minutes to post it. I mean, it doesn't really take that long to do a lot of things that I need to do in my daily life, but I blow them up into such like huger deals than they are. And the idea of following flow kind of helps me come back down and center myself to this really isn't that difficult. I'll just spend an hour on the blog post when I'm ready for it instead of spending 4 hours on it when I don't feel like doing it. So more to unpack on that one. That could be a whole nother episode too.
Yeah.